I used to believe betrayal only happened to other people. To strangers in comment sections. To couples on late-night confession shows. Not to me. Not in my quiet apartment, where the lights were always warm and my wife's slippers rested beside mine. But the night my brother called me from 36,000 feet in the air, everything I thought I knew began to crack. My older brother, Samir, has been a commercial pilot for 12 years. Calm under pressure. Precise. The kind of man who double-checks doors before takeoff and remembers birthdays without reminders. Growing up, he was my compass. When Dad passed, Samir stepped into that silent space without hesitation. He wasn't just my brother. He was my anchor. And when I married Alina, he was the first person I introduced her to. Alina had this way of making rooms feel lighter. She'd tuck her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. She laughed with her whole face. On our third date, she told me she believed loyalty wasn't about rules, it was about respect. That line stayed with me. I built a life around it. We'd been married 3 years. Not perfect, but steady. Sunday breakfasts, movie nights, the small language couples develop, the glance across a crowded room, the squeeze of a hand when words aren't needed. She worked remotely as a marketing consultant. Flexible hours, lots of client calls, sometimes late meetings due to time zones. I trusted her completely. I never checked her phone. Never questioned where she was. Trust, to me, wasn't something you monitored. It was something you gave. The first crack was small. So small I almost ignored it. About 4 months ago, she started mentioning a new client. Important account. High-end travel brand. Demanding, but exciting. She seemed energized by it. Dressing sharper for video calls. Wearing perfume even when she wasn't leaving the apartment. I teased her once. Trying to impress your laptop. She smiled. Presentation matters. It made sense at the time. Then there were the trips. Quick strategy meetings, she said. Mostly day trips to nearby cities. Once, an overnight workshop. She'd send me selfies from hotel rooms, neutral walls, generic art. Miss you already, she'd text. And I'd believe her. Because that's what love does. It fills in gaps with faith. Samir was on a long-haul route the night everything shifted. International flight. Business class nearly full. He'd texted me before departure. Flying west tonight. Don't stay up too late. I remember because Alina had told me she was exhausted. Early night for me, she said, kissing my cheek before heading to bed around 9. I stayed up working on a presentation for my own job. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet, maybe. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Samir. I almost ignored it, thinking it was a casual message. But something in me, instinct, maybe, made me answer. He didn't greet me the usual way. Are you home? He asked. The question felt strange. Yeah. Why? A pause. Not turbulence. Not background noise. Just silence. I need you to answer carefully, he said. His voice was steady, but different. Measured. Like he was navigating something delicate. Is Alina with you? My chest tightened, but I laughed softly. Of course she is. She's asleep. Why? Another pause. I just need to be sure, he said. She didn't travel today. No last-minute trip. No, I replied slowly. She's been home all week. Silence again. Longer this time. You know those moments when the air shifts. When your body reacts before your mind understands why. That was it. Samir, I said quietly. What's going on? He exhaled. I don't want to jump to conclusions. My stomach dropped. Conclusions about what? He lowered his voice. There's a woman in business class. She boarded in Dubai. Traveling under the name A. Rahman. Another pause. She looks exactly like Alina. My heart didn't race. It didn't pound. It just stopped. That's not possible, I said automatically. She's here. I thought so too, he replied. That's why I'm calling. I stood up without realizing it. The hallway light was off. The bedroom door slightly closed. You're mistaken, I insisted. Lots of people look alike. I know my sister-in-law, he said gently. I've seen her at family dinners. I've seen her laugh. I've heard her voice. My breathing turned shallow. Did you talk to her? I whispered. No. I didn't want to cause a scene. She's sitting beside a man. Mid-30s. Well-dressed. They seem comfortable. Comfortable. The word echoed in my head. She could be a client, I said quickly. Work trip. Maybe she didn't tell me because it was last minute. Samir didn't respond right away. She's wearing the blue dress, he said quietly. The one you bought her last anniversary. I felt the room tilt. That dress wasn't something she wore for client calls. It was special, elegant, intimate. You're sure? I asked, my voice barely audible. I'm sure. My legs moved before my thoughts caught up. I walked toward the bedroom. Each step felt unreal, like I was watching myself in a movie. The door creaked slightly as I pushed it open. The bed was neatly made. Her side untouched. Her slippers gone. For a second, I convinced myself she was in the bathroom. I checked. Empty. Stay with me, Samir said through the phone. He must have heard the silence stretch too long. She told me she was going to sleep, I murmured. What time? Around 9. And you didn't check? No, I admitted. Why would I? That's the thing about trust. It doesn't look for proof. I walked back into the living room. Her laptop wasn't on the desk. Her travel makeup pouch was missing from the shelf. Small things I hadn't noticed earlier. Tiny red flags disguised as normal. She texted me at 10, I said, scrolling through my phone with trembling fingers. Good night, heart. Timestamp. 10:07 p.m. Samir's flight departed at 10:45. She could have scheduled the message, he said carefully. My mind rejected the idea. Alina wasn't calculating. She wasn't secretive. She wasn't. Was she? Listen, Samir continued, voice low and controlled. I might be wrong, but if it's her, you deserve to know. I swallowed hard. Where is the flight headed? Paris. Paris. She had once told me she dreamed of seeing the city lights reflected on the Seine. We'd promised to go together someday. She told me she had no trips this week, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. Do you want me to confirm? He asked gently. I closed my eyes. Every memory of us flooded in, her vows, her tears on our wedding day, the way she held my hand during thunderstorms. Trust isn't loud when it breaks. It's quiet. Hairline fractures spreading beneath the surface. Yes, I whispered. Confirm. There was a brief rustle on the other end. Distant cabin noise. Muffled voices. Minutes felt like hours. When Samir came back on the line, his voice had changed. Not shocked. Not angry. Just heavy. I asked discreetly, he said. The passenger responded. My throat tightened. And I forced out. He hesitated. She didn't deny being married. The room seemed to shrink around me. But, he added slowly, when I mentioned your name. His voice trailed off. Samir, I said, barely breathing. What did she say? There was one final pause. And then, she looked at the man beside her, and squeezed his hand. I didn't sleep that night. After Samir's last words, the silence in my apartment felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. I stood there, staring at the dark window, my reflection looking like someone I didn't recognize. She squeezed his hand. Not denied. Not corrected. Not confused. She chose silence. Are you still there? Samir asked softly. Yeah, I managed. I'm sorry. Those two words carried more weight than anything else he could have said. Samir wasn't dramatic. He didn't jump to conclusions. If he sounded certain, it meant he was certain. What are they doing now? I asked, hating myself for needing to know. They're talking quietly, he said. She looks comfortable. Comfortable. That word again. Don't confront her over text, he added. Not yet. Think clearly first. Think clearly. How do you think clearly when the person you trust most might be building a second life at 36,000 feet? We hung up shortly after. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I just sat there in the dark, replaying every moment of the past few months like a detective in my own marriage. The late night, strategy calls. The sudden perfume. The careful way she angled her phone screen away sometimes, something I'd dismissed as habit. The overnight workshop, she'd returned from glowing, energized in a way that had nothing to do with exhaustion. I wasn't looking for betrayal then. So I never saw it. Around 3 a.m., I checked her location out of pure instinct. We had shared locations years ago for convenience. I had never once opened it to monitor her. It was off. Location unavailable. My stomach twisted. She had told me she was home. She had kissed me goodnight. She had texted a heart emoji. I walked into our bedroom again, this time noticing the absence like it was screaming at me. Her favorite carry-on suitcase was gone from the closet. I hadn't noticed earlier because I never had a reason to check. Trust makes you blind in the most gentle way. Morning came slowly. I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I just waited. Samir texted around noon. Landed. It was her. 3 words. No confusion. No maybe. It was her. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. He called shortly after. I confirmed with crew records, he said. Alina Rahman. Seat 4A. No aliases. No misunderstanding. Did she see you? I asked. Yes. My chest tightened. What did she do? She was startled at first, he admitted. But she recovered quickly. Recovered quickly. That meant this wasn't a mistake. Not panic. Not confusion. This was preparation. What did she say? I asked. She said she thought you knew. The words hit harder than I expected. Knew what? I whispered. She said you both had an understanding. That the marriage had changed. An understanding. My mind raced through every conversation we'd ever had. Every disagreement. Every vulnerable moment. We had argued about small things. Chores. Work stress. Future plans. But never, not once, had we discussed anything resembling an understanding. She looked at me and said, Samir continued carefully, he's okay with it. He just doesn't like details. I felt something inside me collapse. That's not true, I said, my voice shaking. I know, he replied firmly. That's why I'm telling you exactly what she said. The man beside her, Samir explained, introduced himself as Daniel. Confident. Relaxed. He didn't look ashamed. He didn't look like someone hiding. He acted like this was normal, Samir said. Like he had a place in her life. A place. Where was I standing in that picture? Did she seem guilty? I asked quietly. Samir paused. She seemed practiced. That word lingered in the air long after he said it. Practiced. As if this wasn't the first time she'd flown. As if business class wasn't a one-time coincidence. As if Paris wasn't spontaneous. How long? I murmured to myself. I don't know, Samir said gently. But this didn't feel new. After we ended the call, I did something I had never done before. I opened her laptop back up on our shared cloud account. I didn't dig through private messages. I didn't hack anything. I just looked at travel invoices synced under our joint financial folder, something we both had access to. There they were. 2 previous flights to Paris. 1 to Rome. 1 to Istanbul. All within the last 6 months. All labeled under, client meetings. All dates she had told me she was working late from home. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of realization settling slowly instead of crashing. It wasn't a single betrayal. It was a pattern. I scrolled further. Hotel bookings. Boutique hotels. 2 guests listed. 2 guests. My hands started to shake, but my mind was strangely calm now. Not because it hurt less, but because the fog was clearing. Every conference. Every urgent trip. Every time she'd returned slightly distant but overly affectionate the next day. It wasn't random. It was compartmentalized. And I had been living in the compartment she visited between flights. Around 7 p.m., my phone lit up. Alina. Video call. I stared at her name for a long time before answering. Her face appeared on screen. Soft lighting. Hotel room behind her, elegant, not generic. Definitely not a budget business stay. Hey, she said gently, as if nothing in the world had shifted. I didn't speak. She studied my face. Something in her expression flickered, calculation, maybe. You talked to Samir, she said. Not a question. Yes. She exhaled slowly. Not panicked. Not defensive. Just steady. I was going to tell you, she began. When? I asked quietly. She didn't answer immediately. It's complicated, she said instead. I almost laughed at the cliché, but the sound wouldn't come out. Were you ever going to tell me? I pressed. Yes, she insisted. When the time was right. When was that? After Paris. After Rome. After how many business class seats? Her jaw tightened slightly. You're making this dramatic. Dramatic. I looked at her, the woman I'd trusted with every fragile part of myself, and realized something terrifying. She didn't see this as betrayal. She saw it as management. It wasn't supposed to hurt you, she said softly. I thought, if you didn't know details, it wouldn't change what we have. What we have, I repeated. Yes, our life, our home, our stability. Stability. Like our marriage was furniture she rearranged while traveling with someone else. Do you love him? I asked. Silence. The kind that answers everything. She looked away from the camera briefly. Just for a second. That's not the point, she said finally. For her, maybe it wasn't. But for me, it was everything. I never agreed to share my marriage, I said calmly. Too calmly. You created an understanding that never existed. Her expression hardened slightly. I didn't think you'd survive the truth all at once. The words felt colder than anger. I deserved the choice, I said. Another pause. You still have a choice, she replied carefully. I frowned. What does that mean? She inhaled slowly, then looked directly into the camera. Daniel knows about you, she said. He's not asking me to leave. We've talked about balance. Balance. The room felt suddenly smaller again. You want both, I said. I want stability and passion, she corrected quietly. And there it was. Not guilt. Not apology. A proposal. My heart pounded for the first time since last night. Come home, I said slowly. She searched my face, trying to read something. I'll be back in 3 days, she replied. No, I said. Come home tomorrow. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Why? Because I needed to look at her across the same table where we once promised forever. Because I needed to hear her say it without hotel lighting softening the truth. Because this wasn't a conversation meant for screens. Because when you walk through that door, I said quietly, we're going to decide whether this marriage survives, or ends. For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Not fear. But the realization that control was shifting. She nodded slowly. Okay. The call ended. I sat there, staring at the blank screen. 3 years of memories. 6 months of lies. And one decision waiting at the threshold of our front door. Tomorrow, she would walk back into the life she had divided. And this time, I wouldn't be blind.